Hi everyone, welcome. Come on in and join me. We're going to be working on some fun things today. Pumpkins and more pumpkins. I've got pumpkins to show you, and then we got pumpkins to do. So if you are seeing this part of our live, then you will see there's a red live button. If you don't see that red live button, hit hashtag replay and let us know you were here. I am Christy with Uncommon Necessities. We are located at 1700 Southeast Mile Hill Drive in Port Orchard at the Town Square Mall, Suite 150. Just to give you an update on our business hours, we are open Thursday through Sunday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, 10 to 6, and Sundays 10 to 5. So come on down and see us, check us out. A lot of great other small businesses here as well. So come on in, sit down, and we'll make a great project together. Hope everyone is having a great Saturday. I know it's been a nice change from the hot weather to a little bit of a cooler pattern, so that's great. A little misty out. Yeah, so I want to give you some recaps on some items that we've done and some updates on those, and we'll get going on a project. If I could ask my assistant, the one thing I did forget was a pair of scissors, I believe. If you could hand me a pair of scissors, that would be great. Thank you to my handsome assistant, my husband. Helps me out here. All right. So as others come on, I will get started and share with you some of the things that we've done last week that I wanted to kind of show you how they finished up and what I did to finish them. So last week we took this 10 bucket, kind of a wall hanging bucket, did a dry brush of white cotton chalk paint for Dixie Belle. We used our new Christmas transfer from IOD, one of the pieces from that. We used our snowflake mold that was just released as well from IOD, and we used air dry clay on that. I put a little bit of clear wax on the snowflakes, and then used gilding wax, silver, on them. And then I just coated the whole thing with a clear top coat, so you can use it outside next to your door. This would look great, I think, as a hanging basket next to your front door. So for example, I have this hanging branch type thing, and you could just stick that right in there. Not even super fancy. Move it to the sides a little bit, and now you got yourself a cute little Christmassy wall hanging. Of course, you'd have to fix the branches a little bit, but you get the idea. It's just to kind of show you. So there's that one, what we did. And here's this assistant. And that. And the other one was this one that we did. Dry brush some caviar chalk paint on the tin. We used the IOD new mold, reindeer mold that was just released, and put some wax on it, black wax, to give it that antique kind of finish, and then clear coated it as well. So another great little hanging basket. All right, so one of the things that I do want to share with you, so those were our projects last week that got finished up. So if you have any questions on any of those steps, just let me know. You can message me at our Uncommon Necessities Facebook page. Please make sure you like and follow our page. We want to make sure that we're getting out to our community and letting them know we're here, and would like to have as many friends join us each Saturday as we can. the more the merrier. So please feel free to share us out to your friends and family. The next thing I want to kind of mention is Dana's Pour Expression is another small business here in the Town Square Mall. She's located 2 shops down from my shop. And we have created a class, and so we're collaborating on a clock class. And this is an example of a clock you could pour in that class. So it's a vinyl record, and what you get to do is you would pick the type of paint pouring you would like to do on your vinyl record. You would do the paint pour. Then we would create your numbers for your clock out of our Iron Orchid Design molds and using our air dry clay. You then get to paint them, and you get to design how you want your clock face. Whether you want your numbers all in one spot or in a normal clock fashion, that's what the great part is. You get to create it. Once that's all done, what we'll do is Dana and I will go, and then once your numbers are dry and your clock face is dry, we will add your numbers on your clock face and then resin it and put in the clock mechanism. So then you have a great clock for you. I don't know if you can see it there. There you go. That should be a pretty good shot. So pretty exciting, lots of fun. It's about a 2-hour class. We do have some open days available. So let me give you the phone number for that. So all you would need to do if you're interested in this clock class is call Dana's Pour Expression, and she can help you out with the dates and the times. And the number is 360-552-8574. Again, it's 360-552-8574. Would love to have you join us. It's a lot of great fun, and you get a great clock at the end of it. And so it's pretty awesome. So think about joining us on that fun. All right. So as you can see, a lot of creativity happening down here at the at the Town Square Mall. All right. Let me take a little sip of soda, and then we'll get started. If you just joined us, please let me know you're here and say hello. I would love to be able to say hello back. Let me pull up my Facebook comments here. And that way we can get, oops, let me turn the volume down. Hello. Oops, that's up. Sorry about that, friends. All right. Okay. All right. So, our project today, welcome if you're just joining. Hi, Miss Melissa. It was so great to meet you yesterday. I'm so glad you can join. Just going over a few housekeeping items right now. We have the clock class still available with Dana's Pour Expression if you're interested. And the number for that is 360-552-8574. So we do have spots available. Just give them a call. Dana would be happy to help. And now we're going to get started on a project. So first thing I wanted to do was share. So today is going to be about pumpkins. And so before I get us started on our project, I wanted to share some pumpkins with you that I have been kind of working on. So you can maybe get some inspiration or some ideas if you have pumpkins you're working on. So I went to Hobby Lobby, and they're having a great sale right now on their fall items. And this is one of the items that I got, was they have these bags of pumpkins. And these are great to, you can use them as decoration as is, or you can paint to match your decor. So pretty easy to do. They're not a foam, they're kind of this plastic, kind of a plastic, and they come in very unique shapes. I don't know if you can see that. So great options to create with. How are you doing today, Melissa? I hope you're having a great Saturday. So the other thing that I found at while I was at Hobby Lobby was these ceramic pumpkins, and they came as a white ceramic, just blank. And so you could get creative and design your own pumpkins to match your decor. So here's the first one I'm working on. So I've done checks on it. This is all using acrylic white and black paint. So for the ceramic pumpkins, I really like using acrylic on them. It just is better coverage and it adheres really nicely to the pumpkin. I hope you're having a great Saturday, Miss Melissa. Then I also have this other one that I've done in stripes, the black and white stripes. None of these are finished yet, so they're just kind of in stages, but I wanted to share them with you so you can maybe get some ideas or thoughts. So black and white stripes, these kind of have the Mackenzie Child home interior feel to them. And so that's a great option. And then wanted to do more of kind of the subtle blues and grays and see how that looked. And so here I've mixed some blues and some grays in my checks and kind of give it a white or watercolor effect. So I don't know if you can see that, but that's kind of that watercolor. Oh, your Wi-Fi keeps going in and out. Oh no. I know that happens to me too. So here's one that's kind of this watercolory effect for the checks. And when I talk about Mackenzie Child, if you're not familiar with Mackenzie Child, she produces a whole line of home decor. And so her inspiration for me is the Courtly check. And this is a napkin of hers. And so I just create my own take on her decor ideas and create my own. So those are those three. And then I do have one more or two more pumpkins to show you. This is another one that's kind of on that same line of the Mackenzie Child inspired. And so it's the black and white stripes. But what I've done is I have added, these are decor pieces or mold pieces that we have here, Iron Orchid Design. And so we have different little pieces that you can use and add to your pumpkins. So you can use those little pieces and create those little interesting kind of falling items like leaves that just kind of give it that neat look. And then I painted it gold. So just some really unique, different ideas as you're getting ready to create your fall decor, that these might be some inspiration pieces for you. And then one last pumpkin I have is, I also got this at Hobby Lobby. This is one of the cement pumpkins they had. And so I just love the shape of it. And so I'm creating this one as a stripe pumpkin as well. So some of the things that I'll probably still do is add some moss to the top to give it some interest. They'll get a shiny coat on a top coat. So I want these really a bright shine, and then some additional moss. So there's what I have that I'm working on. Are yours a resin? Yeah, so those resin pumpkins are great as well. You can do a lot of things with those. They just have a great selection of the different pumpkins this year, and so really impressed. I don't think I actually got any resin ones. I'm gonna have to look for the resin ones because I did not get any of those. So those would be fun to work with for sure. Are you going to paint yours a particular color or theme, or are they going to stay as they are, Miss Melissa? Any ideas or projects with them? All right. So we're going to get started on our project today. And our project today is actually a pumpkin stack that I got from Hobby Lobby. And like I said, they are having a great sale. So I got this on sale. And yay, another trip to Hobby Lobby. Yeah, the blue watercolor is just a unique twist, huh? Yeah, it's just a little something different to do from the standard colors of the fall season. So yeah, so my husband is the one, Greg, who said, yeah, another trip to Hobby Lobby. Yeah, we frequent there. So I got this at Hobby Lobby on sale. So it was a great pumpkin stack. As you can see, it's a stack and it has the little board to stand on, and so it just sits upright. Pretty cool, huh? All right, so we're gonna work on that today, and I already kind of got us started, but let me go over the items that I use will be using today so you can get an idea, and if you want to use any of those similar colors, you know what they were. All right, so I will be using the flat top coat from Dixie Belle, and that'll just be to seal our project. I may just use the clear wax to seal the project. Haven't quite decided, but either is good to seal the project. I will be using brown wax from Dixie Belle, and what that'll do is that'll help give us that kind of aged antique-y kind of feel to it, vintage feel. So that'll be great. And then the colors of chalk paint that I used was the buttercream in our Dixie Belle. I used our Florida orange. Florida orange. I'm also using lemonade. I'm using the Gulf. And we'll use a little bit of this chocolate. The other items that we will use for our project today is some Iron Orchid Design air dry clay. We will use some, we will be using this small, I don't know if you can see it, but this small frame right here in our molds. And this particular mold is called Frames. It's just frames. And as you can see, it has multiple different sizes of small type picture frames, so it's really great working with decoupage paper or anything of that nature. So we'll be using that one today. When you do molds with the air dry clay, make sure you always want to use cornstarch. That's what helps release your molds, or the clay from your molds. So that we'll be using today. One of the other items we will use today is I just got in some new decoupage paper, and we're going to use pieces of this paper in those frames. Isn't that just gorgeous for fall? So cute, so cute and so pretty. So we'll use that today. The other things I may be using is a little bit of this, I'm not even sure where I got it at, but it's just a little bit of dried moss, and then a little bit of maybe some berries and some ribbon. So those are the items we'll be using today. All right. Okay, so I got started because I didn't think you might want to sit here and watch me paint. So I got started and painted. And so what I chose was the brown for the base, orange for this bottom. So this is the Florida orange. This is the Gulf. And this is lemonade. So our pumpkin stack has 3 of the different pumpkin colors. And then I used the chocolate for the base and the stem. All right. So with the boring part out of the way, the painting of that, I also took the time to go ahead and, let me lay this down. If my assistant could kind of come real quick and just angle the camera down, that would be fabulous. So that way you can see our project and not looking at me. If you can zoom it, pull it way out here. Perfect, and then aim it way down. Perfect. Hopefully you all can see the project now. Let me know if you can't. Thanks, Miss Melissa. Let me know if you can't see it very well. It looks like it's pretty good, but you let me know. Okay. So I went ahead and created using, and you'll have to excuse my mold because I use them so frequently. They're not the
Scottish Highland cows. Yes.
they're not the cleanest, but it is just cornstarch. So I did use this mold right here, this picture frame, and so I made 3 of those. And whoops, as I'm spilling things. Okay, so I went ahead and made 3. Here they are. Now typically I would have went ahead and glued this onto my piece and let it dry on my piece, but because of the video, I wanted to be sure to show you what we started with before I went ahead and laid it. So I just have been having them on a flat surface right now to dry. So I went ahead and painted the outer rim of the frame, and then we're going to decoupage in the middle here. So first step first is I want to give this a little bit of an accent on each of these sides, because my thought is I would like to put each of these frames right in the middle of the pumpkin, just like this, and just like that. And I want to give the outer pumpkin rims just a little bit more of a dimension to them. So, what do you think? What do you think, Melissa? Does this look interesting? We'll see how it goes. You know, I love it. You plan things out in your head and then you do it and you go, oh, it either comes together or you go, we have to adjust. So we're going to see how this goes. So to give myself a little bit of dimension here, I am going to use my buttercream paint. The reason I wouldn't use white is because to me it would be a little too stark since I'm going to antique this. So I want to have a little bit of an off-white look to that shadowing on it. All right. Let me move a few things out of my way here. All right. And let me show you how we'll add a little bit of that shadowing. So on your paintbrush, I use typically an angled paintbrush for this. And the idea is that you start up at the top and you're going to get a little wider where it gets a little wider and then a little narrower down towards the bottom. So you're kind of giving it that shadowy kind of effect. And this is to highlight. So it gives it kind of a highlight. And you really don't want a lot of paint. So you see how much paint I have on here? I'm actually going to brush, kind of tap some of that off, so I really have just a little bit to start. Okay, so we'll start at the top and we're just going to kind of work our way down and around. Work our way down and around. Okay, we'll do the other side. It's almost kind of a dry brush kind of effect. Now, what we can do if we find that this is a little too stark for us still, is that we can come in with a little bit of the color that's the base coat and add that in. So we'll just add on the first layer of the dry brush to each of those different areas here. And a little bit more. And we'll do the top. Now the top may be a little bit more difficult to see just because that lemonade is so bright, and it's fairly close to this color. Now remember, the painting doesn't have to be exact for each pumpkin, so you don't have to worry about getting, you know, right in line with everything. And you don't have to worry about the highlighting being perfect either, because one of the things that we're going to do is that we're going to go back in with the brown wax and antique it up, right? So if it's a little bit off or a little bit uneven, not a big deal, not a big deal. But you can make it how you like it, and then adjust from there. So I'm just going to put a little bit more in, and you see how I'm kind of just swooping it around in that half moon shape, just kind of swooping it. But you can see how it's that dry brushing kind of technique. So you don't want a lot of paint. And the top one, you might want to add a little bit more just because it's so light up there. And all of that. There we go. Okay. So to me, that looks pretty darn good. Now, what I did do was I went ahead and I painted the frames in the buttercream color. Again, I didn't want that stark white because I want this to look aged. So I went with that off-white type of color, and I thought that would fit better. So,
I have a durability problem.
Let me fix my... Okay. So,
And they just break.
Now you can see what this looks like with that dry brushing around the edges of your pumpkin. It gives it just another little dimension, and with the pieces in the middle.
5.
Okay.
Until we start selling.
All right, so with that done, let me close up my paint, and then we will move to, let's glue on our frames. So I always use Titebond Quick and Thick. Works great to glue all of my IOD clay molds onto any surface. So I really like this, and it dries clear. So it's a great glue for this. All right. All right, friends. Now the other thing I use that I really like is I bought these off of Amazon. They're just those little clay mask spatula type things that you would use on your face to apply the clay mask. But they really work great for spreading your glue and having a good surface for that. So let me put some of that on here. One of the things you want to make sure with your, oops, as I'm spilling my glue, one of the things you want to make sure is to get it all the way to the edge of your frame. Now, like I mentioned earlier, I typically would have put this on when it was still fresh right out of the mold. And the reason I would do that is so it can adhere to the project as a flat piece. If there's any curves in your project, any dips, then your clay, while it's still good and wet, would sit nicely on your project. When it gets a little bit drier, it's a little bit more difficult to have it just fit snugly onto the bottom of your project, Oops, let me get it all the way to the edge there. Okay, so if I turn it over, I've got some pieces on there. Let me turn it over. And now you can do these out of these mold pieces out of resin. You can also do these mold pieces out of hot glue. Just be careful if you use hot glue filling those molds up. Just don't burn yourself, because it can get kind of tricky until it cools off. So just be very careful if you decide to use hot glue. All right, let me get this other one glued down. Whoops. I'm so glad that I finally got to meet you yesterday, Melissa. It was nice to put a face to the name, and I'm so glad you're able to join us today. I think there's a lot of things happening, I think, today, being kind of that last Saturday before school starts around here. So people are out getting those last minute errands done and completed. It's been kind of quiet around the mall today, but all right, let's go ahead and flip this right over. Now, I did paint my mold before it's completely dry, and you absolutely can do that. You want to just wait to paint it when it has kind of a little bit of a crust that's formed on the outside of the on the mold. Once it has that, and usually it's about 30 minutes or so. Once it has that, then it's a little easier to go in and paint, because you want to be careful that you don't press too hard, that you distort your clay image. But you can do it gently and paint that while it's still wet. So I painted these when they got that crust on them, and just did it real lightly. And let me make sure that's down where I want it. Perfect. Okay. Yeah, so you can do all sorts of things with these stacked pumpkins. They are just so great for that. Sorry about that. That is my phone going off. And there we go.
No, Nana's online.
All right. The last one. The last one. Whoops. Let me turn it around and put it on. There we go. Perfect. All right. There we go. Now that we have our picture frames on, I'll turn it around so you can see what it looks like right side up so far. I think this is going to turn out really unique and interesting. So I'm pretty excited about this. All right. All right. Now, the next part that's the really fun part is coming, and that is we get to pick out the decoupage papers or pictures that we want to put in the center of our picture frames. Now, you could put anything from a napkin. If you have a napkin that you like, you could decoupage a napkin in there. You can even hand paint a pumpkin. I mean, I've seen that too. So that would be pretty cool to do. So here's our decoupage paper. And I want to use the scarecrow for sure. And I'm kind of loving this pumpkin picture for this kind of teal color. And I'm not sure. I kind of like the scarecrow at the top, the pumpkin in the middle.
They're all pressure.
I don't know, the bushel of apples looks kind of interesting.
So these are what transfers look like when they're put on.
Or even this.
So this is decoupage. I don't know if you remember the old Mod Podge. Oh yeah. Decoupage paper, which we have up there. And then this is what they call paint inlay.
I think I'm gonna go with. I think I'm gonna go with the bushel of apples, actually. I kind of like the bushel of apples there. All right. So to cut this out, what I would do, oh, there's another mold you need. I know, it's so addicting. It's so addicting because they're so useful for so many different types of projects. You can do so many things with them. I'll be doing some for Christmas ornaments. So imagine this frame with a Christmas decoupage paper, and then you attach a ribbon. I mean, how cute is that? So we'll probably be doing that as one of our crafts as well. Oh, it looks like my daughter and my granddaughter have joined. Hello, welcome. Hello, welcome. There are just so many different ways you can use that picture frame mold. I love you too, Kennedy. That's my granddaughter. All right, so the way I'm going to cut these out is I'm going to do basically a water line around the picture, and that gives me more of a kind of a natural edge on the tissue paper, because this is actually rice paper. You can use scissors and cut it out, and it gives you a very straight edge. It's just a matter of preference. So if I take it and I draw a water line around my picture, and all I'm just using is a small little thin paintbrush and some water and just drawing a line. Now you can buy water pens on Amazon or even at Hobby Lobby or wherever you would like. Most places usually carry them. So they're pretty easy to find, but I find a paintbrush and water works just as well. So then I just take it and gently pull it apart. So then you're just pulling apart where you made that water line, and you just keep pulling. Hopefully you can see this pretty easily. And it just tears, and I'll show you. It gives you a nice feathered edge on the side of your paper. Okay. And then we're almost there. Just being gentle. All right. So there you go. So you see our picture? Now you see how it has that nice little feathered edge. So when I glue it down, the edges will blend more into my background of my project easier, and it won't look quite so sharp. So there's my scarecrow. Let me cut out my pumpkin. Cut out my pumpkin here. See, this is easy. This is easy stuff here. This is part of the reason I love rice paper. Rice paper is such a great medium to work with because it's much more forgiving than tissue paper or even napkins. It's a little stronger, a little bit more durable, and so it's not going to rip and tear as easily as napkins or tissue paper would. So I really enjoy working with the rice paper. So here we go. Pumpkin is almost out. So there's the pumpkin. Aren't those cute? They are so adorable. So I do have these in my shop if you're interested in them. I also have some other fall ones that are a little bit bigger, but I have these. We do carry here, so if you're interested in those, please stop on by and take a peek. We have quite a selection of decoupage papers from all sorts of types of projects. Really large, you know, 1.5 feet by 2 feet. If you want to do a great big project, whether it be a piece of furniture or a piece of wall decor, And then we have decoupage paper that has these much smaller prints on them to let you do those smaller projects, such as the picture frames. Okay, there we go. There's the apples. Okay, all right. Okay, let's take our 3 little pictures here. Move our board back over. And
so those are transfers also, but instead of
Miss Kennedy, do you like the scarecrow? Is the scarecrow funny? Did you see the scarecrow? Isn't that scarecrow cute, Kennedy? All right. Oh, it's a flying scarecrow. Okay. I am going to use, so what I use for my decoupage medium is the Dixie Belle top coat in flat, and it's really easy to use. It's thinner than Mod Podge, but you're absolutely able to use Mod Podge for all of the decoupage papers. It's just a matter of preference, so whichever you prefer, you can certainly use to glue your decoupage paper down. So I'm going to turn this around this way so I can get it this very good. Now you'll probably notice that I left the middle of the frames white, and the reason I did that is when you put decoupage paper down behind a different color background, and let me show you. So here's what it looks like against the white. You can really see the scarecrow well. If you were to lay this decoupage paper down on the dark, you see how much it takes on the color of the background. It's not quite as bright and sharp. Same with the orange. So when you lay it down on the white, you see it really makes the image pop. So whenever you're working with decoupage, you should try to have as much as possible a white background, unless of course you're going for a more muted type color on the background of your decoupage paper. So I'm just adding this layer of my top coat to glue my paper down, and then I will put the paper right in the middle here, and just a good layer of that top coat, and then you can just lay that right in the middle there, and you just lay it right down in your frame. Now remember, we are going to antique this, so if it doesn't fit exactly inside your frame, it's okay. It'll still look really good once we get it all antiqued. So you just want to make sure that you've got the air bubbles out, so you just kind of lightly press with your finger, and hopefully he looks straight because I'm looking at him upside down. Now we want to just go back and we want to add some more of that medium, so I'm using my top coat. You would just add your decoupage or your Mod Podge if that's what you're using, and you just glue the, you just put a good coat on it and work out the air bubbles as you're doing it. And you want to start from the middle and go out. That will help press those air bubbles out so you don't have any underneath. And the other thing that's really nice about rice paper is it doesn't tend to wrinkle as easy either. So you don't tend to have a lot of wrinkles in your project piece with your rice paper, as you might with your napkins or tissue papers. So now I'm just going to kind of work these little edges down, and that is just a matter of taking my glue, my top coat, and just kind of working it along that edge and putting that right into that frame. And so
in the mold over here.
We'll just kind of keep going around the frame here.
If you notice, there's 2 reindeer on there.
And
Those are actually mirror images.
with the different size frames that you get in the mold, you could make, I think there is 4. Yep, there's 4. And there's one that's bigger than this one, and there's a couple that are smaller. So it just gives you a lot of great options of different things you can use those frames for, the different sizes. So you can either have them on projects like this, or you could even hang them alone and make ornaments out of them, or they're great for gifts to give someone. You can make magnets for your fridge, all sorts of great things. All right, so there is our scarecrow. What do you think? You like that?
You would have a front and back, you'd have 2 fronts.
You like the scarecrow? I think he's coming out. It's coming out pretty interesting. I think it's looking really cute. Let me take a little drink of my soda here. All right. Okay, so I thought that I'm going to put this teal pumpkin. Oh, the other thing I wanted to... Thanks, Melissa. The other thing I wanted to mention is I did paint the back of this project in the 3 pumpkin colors. Now, the reason I did that was because it does stand, and so you might have some seen from the back side. So I just wanted to give it a little bit more of a finish. So you don't have to paint the other side if you don't want to, but I did in this case. Just in case that other side is seen. So now we're going to take our little teal pumpkin here. So let me put a good coat on here. Some other things you can do is, I've seen, is once you put your decoupage paper down and you've got it good and dry, you could crackle on the top and give it kind of that porcelain crackle look as well. So that's another option if you want it to look even more vintage. And so we'll lay our pumpkin down. Let me just take a quick peek at this to make sure it's straight. Can't have a crooked pumpkin. Well, we can. It is my pumpkin. But let me get that a little straight on there. Okay. Perfect. Now I'm just going to work from the inside. I can use my finger initially to kind of get that to lay down, and then I'm going to work from the inside out and really pushing those air bubbles out from underneath that tissue paper, and you can see it starts to lay down really nice on this. So just keep working, and now you have this beautiful teal pumpkin on here. And you just keep working all the way around to get those air bubbles out. And if your paper is just a touch off and doesn't fit completely in your frame, if you noticed down here at the bottom, it's a little bit short, it's going to be just fine, because when we antique it, you're not going to even be able to tell. So that will come out great. It'll still look great. And so we'll just go around and tuck these little edges in and give it that nice little finish here on the edges. It'll be really cute.
Your youngest grandchild is watching.
I know. I saw that. Thank you. All right. Pumpkin's almost in. Now, the feathered edges are not so important on this one, although it does make it easier to kind of get the edges into the frame good. Where it might come into play a little bit more to have that finished edge versus that cut edge is if you're laying the paper down and there's not a border around the paper. So it kind of helps you feather it into the background of your project a little easier. And so that's where that feathered edge is a little nicer to have than a straight edge. But you can certainly work it into your project if you have a straight edge as well. Okay, we're almost there. Almost there, friends. I appreciate all of you here today. I always say the more the merrier. It's always more fun to craft with friends. So I really appreciate you guys joining me today. It's always a good thing to have your friends with you when you're crafting. That's why that clock class that we're collaborating on is such a fun class, because we have about four in a class, and so it's just a lot of great fun to see what others are creating and talking and learning from each other and just really creating. If you do projects, please feel free, if you want to share, please feel free to send me a picture. I would love to see the things you're working on. I'm hoping that my Facebook page, if I can get it figured out, will allow you to be able to share your photos of what you're working on with our community. I think it would be a lot of fun for us to see each other's projects and how it's coming together. All right, there is the middle one. I think it's coming out pretty cute. All right, now the last one I chose was the bushel of apples. So we'll just lay that down in here and get that one done. And okay. Again, let me just turn this around real quick like and make sure I get it good and straight. Okay. That looks pretty good. All right, I'm just going to use my finger, kind of tuck it down a little bit, give it a little head start. All right. Now I'll start from the center again and work my way out. It's a pretty quick little project once you get everything painted and get that done. And you just work those air bubbles out. Now, I would recommend that if you're going to decoupage on your clay, that you wait until it's been drying for at least a good couple of hours. So this has only been drying, I think, about 4 hours, 4.5 hours. So you can see that it's gotten to the point where it's really firm and allowing me to kind of really press on it to get those air bubbles out. I wouldn't do too much sooner than that just because it will still be pretty pliable. So you want to give it a good couple of hours before you start decoupaging on the clay. But you don't have to wait for it to be completely dry. So that is a nice thing about the clay, is you can start working on it as soon as it's really starting to get a good dry crust on it, and it gives you that ability to be able to work on it without making a lot of brush indents in it. So as you can see, I'm just kind of working those edges right into the inside edge of my frame. If it's not straight, not a big deal. Like I said, we're gonna antique it, so all of that will be kind of hidden anyways. All right. And as you can see, it doesn't take a lot of time to get these decoupage papers into your little frames. I mean, how cute would it be if you made a frame and made it into a magnet and gave it as a present to a friend, or Even a teacher, I would think that would be kind of a cute little gift for a teacher even. Put the bushel of apples in it for your teacher. That might be kind of fun. If I'm missing comments, I am so sorry. My iPad, I have to keep swiping to get the comments, so I apologize if I'm missing any. All right. Okay, the top is almost done here. And then we'll give this a good little dry with my heat tool. And then we can start antiquing it. That's also the other fun part, is aging a project. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. I'll show you what it looks like here in 1 second. Let me just get that smoothed down a little bit better. Okay. All right. There we go. What do you guys think? You like it so far? Think it's coming out pretty cute? All right. Now, let me close up my top coat. And, oh, I know. Christmas ornaments, you will love it to make Christmas ornaments with those frames. They are just the best. They come out so adorable. You will love it, Melissa. It's going to look like you spent hours and hours and hours making it. When in reality, we may spend a few hours. Yeah, they're great. And, you know, what's so great about these for Christmas is the different options you have. So you have this big frame here that actually puts an imprint of a smaller frame. Or you can just use this bigger frame by itself with just the clay. Don't fill this part in. And you can put it as a frame on another piece of whatever you might be looking at, right? So you can use it as like a picture frame. Or you can leave it whole and you can decoupage in the middle. And then you have these two smaller frames here. And then this is the one we're using. So a lot of great options of things to do with that one mold. All right, let me use my heat tool here and dry this up real quick. Oh, look at all those wonderful hearts. I don't know who's giving them to me, but thank you. You guys are so sweet. Thank you, thank you. Thank you for all the hearts. I appreciate it. Yeah, that's just what I love about the IOD line, is there's just so many great options. You don't have to do just one thing with that mold. You can do so many things. Thank you for all the hearts. Nana's the best. I love you, Kennedy. You're the best. Now, I just want to make sure this is good and dry, so when I go to apply, the first thing I'm going to put on here is actually a clear wax. And the reason for the clear wax first is so when I go to put on a darker wax, I have more control over how much of the darker wax stays on my project. And I'll show you what I mean. If you don't have a top coat or clear wax down first, the darker wax tends to stick more and you may not be able to get as much off as you would like to have that more vintage look. So want to remember that if you're using dark wax, put a layer of the clear wax first. All right. I think we're looking pretty good. It's feeling pretty dry. Okay. Perfect. Look at all those thumbs up too. Wow. I am feeling the love today. Thank you guys. All right. So here is my clear. And we're just going to open that up and add some clear wax on top. And I got these brushes from Amazon, and they're just those little stencil brushes. And the little stencil brushes for me work great. Work great to apply the wax for me. So we're just going to use this, and you just dab it in. And let me turn this around, and we'll start at the top. Now, we may just use the whole wax, or wax on the whole piece, because it's not something that's going to get a lot of high traffic or use. And so you will be just fine using that. I got some stuff, looks like some yellow paint down here at the bottom. So I just want to kind of scoop that off. Not sure how that got there, but we'll just kind of brush that free, just because I don't want that to get mixed in with my wax. There we go. Okay, now we're set. Okay, so now you just rub that wax, that clear wax on, and give it a good coat. Get in there and get in all those grooves and just give it a good coat of the wax. And I'm going to put it right over top my picture. Hopefully you all can see this. And I'm going to go ahead and use the wax on the rest of my project as well here. So I'm just going to give it a good coat of this nice clear wax. Now it comes out white, and the reason it's white is so you can see where you've applied that wax. So you know where to rub when you want to take it off. As it's drying, it becomes clear. So once it's dry, you won't see it anymore. But it gives you that just to be able to see, where have I applied it? Do I need to apply it someplace else? Maybe I didn't get enough, that kind of thing. So just apply a good dosing of that. So we got it on the top. Now we'll go ahead and put it down here on this one. And just be gentle if your clay is not completely dry yet, like mine is not completely dry. So you don't want to be too terribly rough, but you do want to make sure you get it into those grooves. And so just be a little gentle as you're going through. Okay, put it on the picture. And then we'll put it on the sides. See, just giving it a good dosing of this wax. This is what's going to give you that nice finished look on it. It's going to seal your project, and it'll be great. And my assistant, the one thing I forgot, if my assistant is around, hopefully, maybe he's not. Assistant, my husband, I need a cut piece of cloth I forgot to get to wipe the wax off. You know, I think I have all of my project lined out, ready to go, and there's always something I'm missing. And so I thank my stars for my husband to be here to help me every day when we go live. So I sure do appreciate that. because it's kind of hard to jump to get something when you're on camera. I mean, you can do it. It's just, yeah, perfect. Great job, my assistant. You are fabulous. Okay. Now, I'm not going to seal the brown at the bottom, and the reason for that is I am going to add the moss down there. So I don't need that to be waxed since we're going to add that moss down there. All right. So we've got it all good and waxed up. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to take a soft, dry cloth. And so this is just a bag of those rags that you can buy at the hardware store. And I just cut them up and use them for all sorts of waxing projects. So all you got to do now is just kind of lightly buff off that wax. Now you can let it sit for an hour or two. It's not going to hurt it. So if you can't wax it right away, you'll be just fine. But you don't need to take off a lot of it. You just want to kind of wipe down the bigger areas of where it's kind of more clumpy and that kind of thing. So just giving it a good rub, and I got a little bit of fuzzies on here. That's okay. You can wipe those right off. And that's from the wax brush, but that's fine. We'll get those off. Okay, so you kind of just wipe your wax back. Doesn't have to be anything too terribly perfect or anything like that. Okay, so there's number one. Let me move down here to the blue pumpkin, and we just wipe it back. And if you have any of the white wax that still shows, it's okay, because it will dry to clear. So it won't stay white, so you won't see it. It will be clear. And so we just kind of wipe out those bigger clumpy areas as much as we can. And some of my pieces of my clay, because it's not quite dry, are coming off. But that's okay. Still looks good. Makes it look more vintage, right? And so we'll just wipe back our pumpkin here, and a little bit in that area right there. Perfect. Okay, now we'll come down and wipe off our orange pumpkin. All right. Whoop. Get another piece of my rag here. Kind of wipe off our orange pumpkin. So once you've waxed it, you don't have to do anything else to seal it. Unless it's going to be something in a high traffic area, you may choose to use a top coat versus the wax, the white wax to seal first. But for things like this, the wax will be enough, and you don't have to do anything further to seal your project. So that is what makes it so great and easy to use the wax. All right, I got these little clumps of clay here. Okay. It keeps attaching to my rag. Okay, let me wipe that off there. Perfect. All right. Whoops. So here we are after we've waxed it with the clear wax. Now we're going to wax it with the brown wax. So this is our brown from Dixie Belle. Okay. And let me get my brown wax brush out. Okay. So now you want to apply the brown wax wherever it is that you want it to look vintage or aged. So I'm going to apply it to the frame, and my wax brush is kind of really loaded here. So let me see if I can work a little bit of this out so it's not quite so clumped. Okay. So now I'm just going to kind of brush on the brown wax. You want to get it down in those crevices as much as you can. That's because if you think about it, when we go to wipe it off, what you're going to see is what's left in those crevices, right? And that's where you want it to look vintage and aged. And so we will just... Now, let's say for instance, I did not want my pumpkin brown at all. So you see where the brown is on here? Let's say I did not want it to be brown. Because I applied that clear wax, it acts like an eraser. So I can then go back in with my rag and really clean up that brown wax if I don't want it there at all. That's why it's important to make sure you've added either the top coat or a clear wax. So now we have a dirty scarecrow, but I want my whole pumpkin to look aged. So I'm just going to put this wax kind of all around it. I want it to kind of have this dirty, aged look. So we're just going to smear this on. I know it looks pretty scary right now, doesn't it? So let's go ahead and do that down here and add this in. Now, hopefully my plan all comes together and everything works like it's supposed to, and we end up with a beautifully aged looking project. Okay. Just wipe that wax right on there. Now you can control as much or as little as you want on your pieces that you're trying to age. So if you only want a little bit, then you can wipe back as much as you want. If you want it to stay dark, then you can leave quite a bit on. But it's up to you and your preference of what you like. Okay, let's do this bottom one. Get that on. Okay, smear it on the face of it. I know this is probably looking like, right now. But you will see. Okay, so now I've got it good and dirtied up with my brown wax. What I would do now is I will take my cloth and I will start rubbing back as much of that wax as I want. So as little or as much as I would like to come off of the frame. Now I got to lay this down a little bit. Sorry. Hopefully you can still see. So it's really up to me how dark I want this to look. And by wiping it back, you can get the feel for how aged you want it. And all you do is you keep wiping until you are happy with the color and the aged process that it looks. So you just keep wiping along. And so we'll just kind of keep wiping this. But if I didn't have that clear wax on here before I put this down, the color that you see now, it probably would stay this dirty look, because it would be very difficult to get that brown wax off. So and whoop. All right, so that yellow pumpkin is just about done for me, but you see I can still keep removing wax until I'm really happy with it. Okay. Well, this gives you an idea. Okay, so you see how it's all antiqued up now? Pretty cool, huh? Now, let's do this bottom one here. Let me lay this down a little bit. And rub our pumpkin and get it as white as I would like it, or as unaged as possible here. So you can really see that picture good. And if you want to do the antiquing, you probably would be better to wait a day to give your mold really a good day to dry before you do the antiquing wax, just because with the dark you do tend to have to rub more to get the dark to a degree that you like it, and so you might have to press more than you would like to if your mold is still wet. So I would probably give it a good day before I antiqued it. In the interest of time, because it is a video, mine is a little bit probably early. Oops. Look, I just left a giant thumbprint on there. Easy peasy though, I can fix it right up and wipe it right back. Okay. Whoop. Okay.
Melissa
Huh?
coming.
Oh yeah, I scared you. I know. It's a little scary when you put that dark wax on and it looks like, oh, so dark, so dirty. Oh no, what's gonna happen?
That's why the clear wax is important.
But once you start working with it, and understanding the clear wax and the role that it plays, because that's really the key to getting the wax, the antique wax back to a place where it's enough to make it look antiqued and not like you just dumped it in the mud. Because when you put it on, it looks like you just went and dumped it in the mud. But it really gives it a nice vintage feel to it once you get that dark wax back, because it's left in those crevices that our antique furniture, when you look at it, typically has, right? It's in, that dirtiness is in those crevices. And so it really gives it that nice finish with it being in the crevice. And so the reason I know clear wax, it plays such an important key, because I have, when I originally kind of first started using these products, I did not use the clear wax, and I ended up with projects that look like this, and I could not get the wax off. So a lot of my tips and tricks come from personal experience, where I've done something and I went, how do I do it differently? So there's the blue. Isn't that looking awesome? I mean, look at where we started with the brown and where we're ending up. It's really coming out gorgeous. So you can see it really good once I start working with the orange and taking that back and just rubbing, and you can see the difference in that. So you're just leaving that wax in those crevices where those vintage items typically have that kind of dirty, grungy look, is in those crevices. So now there might be some items where you really want it to be grungy, so you may not wipe it back as much. But that's the great thing that you can do, is by having that clear wax, is really get that control of how much you want to take back. And so I'm just going to wipe my apple bushel back here so you can see my apple bushel again. And you notice my rag, you do go through a lot of rags if you're doing a lot of antiquing with the brown wax, because yeah, it's a lot of, it tends to be a lot of wax that you're bringing back off again. But you have to put that on in order to, that's because I didn't let my clay dry completely, in order to get into those crevices. And so let me turn this around and really just kind of do this down there. All right. We're getting somewhere, friends. I promise. I promise. We're getting there. What time is it?
It is 5:25.
Okay. Sorry, friends. I know this project has taken a little bit longer than we normally spend, so I appreciate you spending your time with me to do this project today. I think it's just such a fun project, and with the fall and everything coming up, there's a couple of techniques that I wanted to show you that I don't typically get to show, and one of those is the kind of the antiquing with the wax that I don't get to. So I wanted to really highlight that today for you, and some of that is a little bit of a process to show, and it takes a little bit of time. So I appreciate you hanging out with me for sure. And all of that. All right. We're almost to the point where we're done with the wiping back of the wax. One more little good spot here that I want to make sure we get, and that is right in this crevice here. Right inside that crevice. Let me get that a good wiping. Okay. All right. I think that looks pretty good. Now, let me show you. Let me get a little bit more off of the picture here. Let me show you where we're at. You can still take back more wax if you want. So you can still keep going. All right, let me show you where we're at. What do you think? Do you guys like it? Oh, okay. No worries. I appreciate you tuning in, friend. I appreciate you tuning in. All right. So the next thing we're gonna do, well, let's just take a minute and let's just show where we're at, where we started from and where we're at. So here's where we started, and here is where we're at. All right. So a couple more things to do. Let me just show you what those are, just so you have an idea as you do your project. And that is, I'm going to take some of this great moss type stuff and get my glue gun, and we're going to add it to the bottom down here. So let me kind of turn it this way and put a little glue down here and start sticking this on. Oop. Hopefully I can get it to stick. It's kind of crunchy. Oop. Just so you get some idea of where I'm going with it. So this is why you don't need to be real careful about putting on the paint down here at the bottom and making sure it's exact and perfect, because if you use moss to cover it up, it'll look fabulous. So, and you won't see those spots. So let's add a little bit more right there. Find a piece that works. All right. So you get that idea, right? So you can add some of this at the bottom, any kind of moss you like. And then the last thing that I thought would be kind of neat for this is if you wanted on the top of your pumpkin, you could add some strips of ribbon. Oops, I've got lots of strings. Okay, you can add some strips of ribbon. So I just have some pieces of ribbon here, and I know you gave me scissors. Oh, here they are. So I just have some strips of lace. These are just extra pieces that I've had laying around of different pieces here.
Never throw anything away.
Never throw anything away. You could come up here at the top of the stem and tie a little bow on. Well, it's actually not a bow. I would just tie a little knot. Oop. And you could have some vintage ribbon hanging out at the top up here. Okay, like so. So if my assistant wants to angle the camera up for me, you can see where I was heading with this. So what do you think, friends? And you don't even have to have the bows. I mean, I just thought it might be kind of another cute little piece of element there. But how unique of a piece is this? Isn't this awesome? Some chalk paint, some frames, some decoupage paper, some antique-y type wax, some moss at the bottom, and then just some ribbons. I hope you like this. Oh, thanks, you guys. You guys are so sweet. I appreciate it, Melissa. I appreciate it, Kay. You guys are so sweet. I appreciate you hanging out with me today. And I hope this, provided some inspiration for you as we're making making pumpkins for the season, right? 'Tis the season. So please stop by, come visit us. We're at the Town Square Mall, and I would love to help you find the things that you would like to create your own project. So I hope you guys have a great day and a fantastic week. And I will see you next Saturday at 4 o'clock. Make sure you share us out to your friends and your family. More the merrier. We'd love to have lots of friends join us. And otherwise, I'll see you guys next Saturday. Thank you so much for all your kind words. I really appreciate you joining. Take care, everyone. Bye, my friends.